Welcome to Chapter 5. I am glad to have you joining me for this video. Before we get started, I want to ask you something. This week we will be focusing on the largest organ of the body. Do you have any idea what that might be? Well, if you answered the liver, you are close, but not quite. Liver is the largest internal organ of the body, but there is another one that I had on mind. Think about a coat that is waterproof, stretches, can be easily washed, has a pretty good air conditioning built into it. And how about if it can also repair any small cuts, rips, and even burns? What if I also promise that this coat lasts for your lifetime, growing larger as your body grows bigger? Sounds pretty good, huh? Well, you already have such a coat and it happens to be the largest organ in the body. This is of course the skin. In this chapter, we will be looking at the skin and many structures that are so closely associated with it that we have chosen to include them as a same organ system. This would be hair, nails, and various glands. We will be discussing their structure and function and even looking what happens if they are damaged. But that will be in the later videos for this chapter. Let's start by considering something that might initially seem very obvious to you, but is really quite noteworthy. So, skin covers the outer parts of your body, right? Your face, back, front, limbs, and so on. But what is remarkable that it is not just the outside of your body that is covered with these body membranes, the skin being one of these, but your body is covered by these also from the inside. Let's move further from your lips inside the mouth. The inside of the mouth, gums, the entire oral cavity are covered by mucous membrane, known as oral mucosa in this case. But all the same, it is still a body membrane, somewhat similar to the skin. And same goes for your nasal cavity. It too is covered with another membrane. Here we are looking inside the nose. We can even see some nasal conchae on the side. These structures will become much more familiar to you as we review the respiratory system later on anatomy and physiology courses. And these layers continue throughout your entire body. I think that this one is a picture down trachea, the windpipe. Notice how it as well is covered by a membrane. So all these are just some of the examples of how our entire body is covered, both inside and outside, by either the skin or other skin-like membranes. They line our digestive system from one end to another, airways, and other body cavities that are directly accessible from the outside of our body through some kind of a tube or opening. This all is very important as they protect us, separating the outside and inside of the body, secreting where necessary, lubricating, and many other functions. And it is the cutaneous membrane that we will be focusing out of this. So, the cutaneous membrane is the proper medical term for our skin. It is a dry membrane in comparison to the ones before and forms the outermost layer that protects our body. And at the bottom you can actually see a cross-section of a human full-thickness skin. But before we go into more detail, there is something that I want to quickly show to you. Anyone who has taken my classes knows that I love fine arts, history, and medical sciences. And when you get to combine all of them, that is pretty cool. So really, to set the scene, so to speak, I wanted to start with this picture. It is, I believe, a Spanish artist from 1500s. What we are seeing here is a cavator holding its own skin in one hand. We must remember that back in the day, the church had a strong influence to all aspects of life. And if human was created to be perfect as it is, along with other forms of life on the earth, as the church taught us, there was no need to explore the human body in a greater detail. For a long time, studying a human body, such as being an anatomist, was frowned upon, and even sometimes a little dangerous. Therefore, getting an access to cavators was a real issue to many universities where such early work was done to build our current understanding of a human body. And where I studied and later worked at the University of Glasgow, for example, creative solutions were needed. What you will find in the University of Glasgow these days is still some tunnels that were used to transport these to the anatomy department. And because the bodies were hard to come by, a profession called body snatchers was formed. And on the image at the bottom, you can actually see a drawing of this jolly group watching and warding that their loved one is not taken from the graveyard. This is likely after a burial. But before we get too far from the topic, another thing that you can see on the other hand of this cavator is a dissecting knife that it has used to remove the skin. In fact, not only being the largest organ of our body, the skin is approximately 16% of our body mass. That is quite a lot, I think, actually. Well, you find out that the same fascination that these people had towards learning about the human body still remains amongst us. Just recently there was an exhibition called Bodyworks in the Phoenix, where you could see, for example, this statue made of real human tissue. Kind of mimicking Juan Valveride's famous historical drawing. I can tell you more about these statues and how they are done at a later time. It was one of my jobs in the past to prepare these anatomical sculptures so that medical students can study real human bodies without having to use a cavator every time. What we find really is that we all have a skin. We all humans share this characteristic that unifies us. And yet, all of our skins are unique and differ from each other. The other thing that we find is that skin is also an excellent source of information about our state of health. Sometimes I feel when medical students especially are choosing their fields to specialize on, we do not always consider how valuable source of information looking at the skin alone is. It can tell you a lot about the current state and well-being of that individual and about the life history, what kind of life that individual has lived. Think, for example, excessive sun exposure. We can see the damage of it tens of years after the incident first happened. And another way to look at this is to remember that treating the skin diseases is so important. It may not be as media sexy as being a cardiac surgeon, but skin disorders can really have a huge effect on the patient's day-to-day life. Often people are judged, and very often incorrectly, that if there are skin diseases, that person must be dirty or have a poor hygiene. And for that reason, these patients can often have their life changed so much by getting their skin condition under control by medical treatment. So this is really one of the fields of specialization and a topic that we all must understand even at other fields, I feel. In our next video lecture, we will look at the microanatomy and structure of the skin in more detail. And we will discuss various factors affecting your skin color. But before we do that, I want to go through different main layers of the skin with you. And that provides us an excellent chance to revise different tissue types. Something that AP Primer, which you were trialing, should have helped you with.